The Raiders, a team that has absolutely been all over the place. A team that, you go into the league thinking their offense is set. There's no issues there. Their offense maybe scores 30, 40 points a game. And I know 40 is a little high. I mean, it's absurd, but very well looked like it was going to be that. One of my projections for the year was that Davante wasn't going to be as good statistically as he was in Green Bay because he was still going to get the same type of treatment, double teams and whatnot, but because you had those other talents like Waller and Renfro, that they would be elevated, the whole offense would be elevated. Obviously there's been some injuries, so that kind of idea is out the window, right? Like you can't really throw to Waller or Renfro if they're out for months on end. So Davante on par for one of his best statistical seasons yet, assuming he doesn't get injured, which in Green Bay, he kind of missed a game or two every year. But other than that, the offense, it really hasn't been great with the pass game specifically. You have a guy like Josh Jacobs, who surprisingly is only star. He's playing out of his mind right now. Yet you have Derek Carr underperforming. Simply put, obviously he's not been the only problem they've had. The offensive line is still, very much so a liability, especially in pass blocking. But as far as, where this Raiders team should be, even with the injuries outside, Davante Adams alone, at least in Green Bay, was able to make a pretty prolific passing offense. Obviously, Rodgers helps that quite a bit. But Derek Carr, the Raiders offense, it's still, even with the injuries, has not lived up to potential. Obviously, the defense is still the defense. You have Max Crosby killing it, but it's still a defense that is still getting gashed constantly, specifically in the pass game, obviously. But overall, this is a team that has for years now, at least for the last part of, a half decade, been talking about year in and year out, is Derek Carr the guy? And then he explodes on the scene. It's like, oh, he's actually still really good. And then it's like, okay, well, Derek Carr, maybe not so much. And then it's like, he's good, he's not good, he's good, he's not good. I don't think I would move on from, Derek Carr unless I had a top 5 pick in this upcoming draft and I saw, the quarterback of our future I would maybe look at. You could still easily get a second-round pick for Derek Carr from someone. The Colts are constantly looking for quarterbacks every single year, it seems. I know it's interconference, but if you're moving on from the quarterback, you should be less worried about, is he going to hurt us for years than, can we get as much as we can for this guy? And Davante Adams and Waller, some of the big names that you would, want to be using on this offense, do you see them after 31-32 still being the names they are? So if you're looking at those guys as like generational, maybe not so much Waller. He's really good, but he's not, generational per se. Those guys, do you have that window? Do you believe in Aaron Rodgers could play another 2 years? That's when you would kind of see Waller and Adams, peak, if you will. I can't imagine Davante and Waller are still going to be good at 32 years old or whatever, which they're both pretty much 30. Waller's already 30. Davante's going to be 30 in like a week or two. Do you see them being that great after 32 anyways? Do you see those guys with Jacobs being so good of an offense that if you had that Hall of Fame quarterback, could you win a Super Bowl? Maybe that's their decision. Long story short, long story long, let's be honest. Short story long, to be honest. We're going to see what happens if the Raiders actually traded for Aaron Rodgers, which has been a little bit of rumors for. I can't imagine with the age of Derek Carr that they would, but you know what? Let's have a little fun. And I also kind of forgot about Renfro. Obviously, he's a little bit younger, but if you have a guy like Aaron Rodgers with those weapons, I just don't imagine you're scoring under 35 points a game, really. And of course, Derek Carr's like, yeah, me too, but I haven't had those weapons. This guy's been injured for like a month or two. If the game actually had the proper stats and all that, we could have done multiple where should Rodgers go type of videos, to be honest. I was going to do a video where it's where should Rodgers go? I was going to have the Niners, Jets, and all those teams on there, but realistically, this is the team that you would make the most sense. Rodgers talking about not wanting to go to a rebuild team. This team is, getting there potentially. They have so many good offensive players, but offensive line needs work. Defense as a whole needs work. But they have the most weapons, and I just don't think San Fran is willing to pay for a guy like Rodgers, especially since it's interconference. More importantly, it's wow. So they project the Raiders lose every single game. I was thinking, they win 2, lose 2, because they have 2 really tough games near the end of the season here. But Okay, then, yeah, now I would definitely say they'd be in on a quarterback, because 5-12 to not at least finish 7-10, which is what I would say 99% of people would project them to do. Yeah, then it's like, okay, maybe he isn't the guy. Like, wow, 21-27, really original games there, but they should beat the Patriots. They definitely should beat the Steelers. Niners, I don't see a great chance at that, and the Chiefs, unless they're benching starters, even if they do, they might lose that game. But overall, yeah, that is a pretty bad finish, and I could see that happening more often, or the bigger chance for that happening. Do they see the Packers making the playoffs? And they do not. They have them a 7-10. I mean, that's not the worst finish, right? That's winning, that's not terrible. It's like 2-2. Two really tough matchups on Green Bay's schedule as well. So 7-10, there's some promise there, but if Green Bay slips into the playoffs, it's like, okay, they're not going to trade Rodgers then, right? Because somehow he turned around the season. I don't even know how that was possible. But as far as, what happened physically, that didn't happen, of course. I wish those are the numbers Rodgers had. Still could. He only has 9 picks. He could throw 20 straight touchdowns. Jacobs, he's already pretty much has those numbers. And then obviously Waller and Renfro played more than they probably should have in this sim, but that doesn't really matter too much. We're obviously going to be simming to next year. And I let the AI deal with the contracts because I want to see what they think is going to happen, even though a lot of it is just the game kind of isn't the greatest with contract re-signings. Let's take a look at who win the Super Bowl and then see what it might cost us to get Rodgers. I can't imagine, especially since this team is 5-12, it would cost more than, I don't know if I would say a first-round pick, but maybe like a pick swap and like a second. But Eagles and the Bengals are in the Super Bowl. That is a decent matchup. It'd be kind of a fun one and very realistic. With the Eagles winning? No, it is the Bengals winning. But yeah, I kind of skimmed over it. But like I was saying with the video idea of, doing the Niners, the Jets, the Giants, a bunch of different teams and see what, happens best case for Rodgers. If you're looking at Rodgers' standpoint of I don't want to join a rebuild team or whatever, like I was talking about with the weapons, other than San Fran, I just don't know if there's a team like that. Like, why would you want to play, for the Giants with their receiving, options and the offensive line? They got a lineman or two, but everyone else isn't the greatest. The Colts, their receivers aren't great. It's not a great situation to be moving on from Green Bay, with the projected defense. They haven't really played well on paper. The receivers, Dobbs and Watson, they got a lot of promise. And then obviously the running back, the backfield is really solid. And, the offensive line, when healthy, is one of the best units in the league. So, at least they play that way. And I just don't think, you can get, like the Broncos, they can't move on from Wilson, so that's why we're only going to be doing the Raiders here, because they actually have some, money. They have a quarterback situation where they're not completely locked in, and they have been linked to Rodgers a little bit. So that's that. And let's sim to the draft, see who's on the team, and then make this trade. If we can afford it. I also forgot about Rodgers potentially retiring. Please, for the love of God, Rodgers, please. Thank you. Of course, that money is insane. I think it probably would have to be like a post-June 1st trade, but for video purposes, I'm just not going to worry about that. Jesus, that penalty. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to, make the trade as is. I will say, though, it kind of does, I wouldn't say defeat the purpose, but you can't really trade with this year's picks if you're going to do a post-June 1st. I don't know what the situation is. I don't think Green Bay can afford to make that play. I mean, a first and a third next year for Rodgers, so it wouldn't be, after the season is over. I don't think they're going to accept this, though. And Jordan Love is gone. I don't think that's going to happen in real life, though. I'd say if you're trading Rodgers, you're sticking with Jordan Love, so I'll have to go and get them back. Or him back. I don't think Green Bay wants Derek Carr, though. I really don't. But would you be like, hey, just throw him in there just for the hell of it? Keep your third? Maybe? The other team can't afford it because of the penalty. Let's fix this up real quick. So even if I offer 20 or 35 this with a first next, they will not take it. For video purposes, I'm just going to take this trade and just let them... What? Now what? We can't consider this offer as it puts us over the... Oh my god, you idiots. So basically, this kind of comes down to like 2 firsts and Derek Carr for Rodgers, which at this point, I don't know. I think it is kind of a case of like, where's Rodgers' head at? Is Green Bay like, okay, this is costing us a lot, but we'll do it, I guess. Can we do, like, pick this? Can we do this? Damn, that's close, but it's not quite. Well, long story short, the game would cost us 2 firsts and Derek Carr. We don't really have 2 firsts. I'm just going to make that trade. It's kind of irrelevant, though, but I am trying to make a trade that would keep the team as real as possible, because I think this team would have to keep this year's pick. So I'm going to try to get that pick back and then make it the first. I should have just done it manually. So this is how the Raiders' offseason went before the draft, of course. I'd find it pretty hard not to go right tackle, but obviously look at the talent this offense has. And then defense, they added Marcus Davenport, which is interesting. Keeping Rock Yassin was a very smart idea, Hobbs. So I would probably go inside linebacker, DT, or tackle. With the DTs in this class, I'd find it very hard not to go Jalen Carter at 3. And they take Jalen Carter. However, they take quarterback in the second round. I feel like if you can get him there, that's not the worst call, but I don't think that's going to happen. Drew Sanders, Rashee Rice, they get some height there at number 2, potentially. I actually really like this class. This is actually a very good class from the AI. After the round 4, I don't really care too much, but I guess the speedy tight end. But Jalen Carter is a great pick. Obviously, we just talked about that. Hooker is a pretty solid pick. Rodgers, how long is he going to last? Drew Sanders, fair enough. And then Rashee Rice is a really good pick because, you don't really want Hunter Renfrow being your number 2 on the outside there. You'd rather have him in the slot. So I think he can do that by drafting him. Jordan Love is on the Packers. And, of course, we now know Rodgers is a Raider. Obviously, looking at the offense, you have Rashee Rice, who's got some potential. He's bigger on the outside. You got your main food groups. You've got your height and speed with Waller. You got your height and your route running with release with Devontae. You have your height and your catching from Rice. You have your short and your route running from Renfrow. You have your Jacobs strength. And then you have your Rodgers gunslinger just darting it in there. And then defense, slight little upgrade. Of course, this isn't like a rebuild. I just kind of want to see what would happen if Rodgers was a Raider and if, he played multiple seasons for them. Depends if that happens. We'll see. We're just going to watch it out and see if he retires or not. I made him a 90 overall just because I think Rodgers on par for about 89, 90 overall in next Madden. What a crazy last game. Who's going to win, though, is the question. The Packers and Raiders both at 10-6 playing against each other with, of course, the Packers winning the game. But obviously, looking at the season, 62-14 against the Jets. A little shaky near the middle and near the end, but overall, a good season, obviously, better than, 5-12. Looking at Rodgers, 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Josh Jacobs had a great game. Adams, of course, a 6 touchdown game, and Adams doesn't get a single one. I'm sure of it. But let's take a look at the... I should have actually taken a look at the Packers side, but we'll just take a look through these stats. Rodgers, the top of the league with yards, 42 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, a little bit high, but Jacobs was great. Rashee Rice, Waller, Devontae, Renfrow, almost all 4 got to 1,000 yards. Blocking was solid. Defensively, sack totals, you'd like to see a little bit more, but, it was a good collective effort. Carlson was great. A.J. Cole was decent. Apparently, Rashee Rice is the punt returner, or the kick returner. Let's take a look at how Jordan Love played for the Packers, assuming he did play, right? Yes, he didn't. I had him as a higher overall than Derek Carr, so he would start. I guess the future starter thing is just bullcrap, because I literally made Derek Carr a lower overall, but they still started Derek Carr. And you can see here, you're getting that pretty average season from him. You need him to take that extra step, and he just won't, playing for a Packers team that doesn't have as good of receivers, in fairness. But MVP of the league goes to Jalen Hurts. Where are the wide receivers? So Aaron Rodgers at number 6. And, I can't say it's a good trade for sure, but they're back in the playoffs. Rodgers had a really good season, and they have a chance here to maybe have a run. First game, the Chiefs, they lost to them at least once in the regular season, and they lose the first game in the playoffs. Let's take a look. It was a great game, in fairness, but a loss is a loss no matter how you want to look at it. 38-44. Rodgers threw that one pick, but it was a good game between both. It's just they slightly outscored, and Davante Adams had 2 for 14 in a playoff game where they lose. That's impossible. The problem with Rodgers is he forced it to Davante too much, especially when they were losing. But could this come to a lackluster end with Rodgers retiring right away? Question mark? And you get the Bears in the Super Bowl. What is even happening with the Chiefs winning? So, I mean, we did face off against the team that literally won the Super Bowl, so that's kind of pain. And Rodgers didn't retire. Now, I didn't change his age or anything like that to try and keep him around. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely want another year from Rodgers here because I think it makes the most sense. You know, you have a pretty good run. You almost win against the Super Bowl champions. You put up 38 points. The defense just didn't get it done. I think you definitely want to give it another go, and, I mean, it seems like Rodgers is in agreement. All right, let's see what the team did in the draft. Also didn't see their free agency picks. Free safety, definitely a positional need. Cornerback, definitely a need as well. 6'2", fast, so, I mean, there's potential there. Anyone else? Left tackle looks awful. I mean, maybe he's a superstar, I don't know, but can't imagine he will be. Yeah, he's terrible. Now, I am going to fix this, but keep in mind the type of game we're playing here. You got Hendon Hooker as the backup. I will say he is normal dev, which is an L. You have Rodgers as your starter, and the team decides, you know what? I think another quarterback is going to be the guy. Now, you can make the argument, well, I mean, you got a guy like Herbert sitting in free agency. Why wouldn't you take him? Still, I can't defend that. Like, that's just absurd. Like, why? And who do I see but Jordan Love? Like, how is that even possible? For of all the teams, for one, he should just be still on that team. Like, of all the teams, of course, he's with the Chargers. Just so we could see him. All right, here's the roster. We added Steele, obviously. And I think it's something for Herbert because this team spent all of their free agency money on him. Maybe should have asked for something. Oh, yeah, we did get Joseph Day, actually. So we made the team a little bit better. Team's a little bit better. Obviously, this isn't a rebuild, but you know, it's nice to at least get something fair for losing Herbert. So, yeah, this is a team that may have its final year here as a contender, as Rodgers already dropped down at 87, and he's 40 plus, and we'll see how long he wants to stick around. And the team takes a mad turn for the worse as they go 8-9. It's a deep-rooted issue. No quarterback can fix it. As you can see, 3 losses in a row, a win, 3 more losses in a row, and then a W. Wasted talent, wasted trade. And you can see, I mean, maybe the ints are way high, but yards are way up there for Rodgers. Interceptions are a little high, but touchdowns, 34. To be fair, a lot of rushing touchdowns. Davante, best season of his career. And this could be how it goes out. Max Crosby with 20 sacks. Carter with 13.5. Chandler Jones has just not been worth it at all. Let's see. This could be Rodgers' last year. Titans versus Commanders, and the Titans win the game. Is that it for Mr. Rodgers? Let's see. I think it might be. About to find out. If it lets me. I don't see him yet. And no, he's still here. I mean, I've seen him retire year 1 several times. Yet here he is as an 84 overall. Looking actually like busted Tobey Maguire in that picture. He's still here. He's got another year. I don't know if this guy's like an X factor or not, but this draft is awful. A 250-pound, 79-speed edge rusher. I'm not really sure what you... Okay, he is an X factor. Fair enough, but... yeah, I would never draft him. Pick 11, 70 overall, super slow. He's an X factor. I don't know how you see that. Like, I just don't know. 84 overall Rodgers. Let's see how good he actually is. He's 41 now. He's still really good. I wonder if he'll actually just not retire because he's not really regressing. His overall's dropping maybe because of his awareness, but his throw power and accuracy is still there. Obviously, Davante's dropping a little bit. Waller's dropped. This kind of feels like almost like the last season, right? Like, I don't imagine he's sticking around for much longer. Of course, they added Jalen Phillips. Jalen Carter, speaking of, is an X factor now, and I mean, it's got potential. Maybe this is a Super Bowl team. That would be kind of absurd. Win it right in the last year. And the team is back. 11-6, of course. It's the 8-9 Chiefs they've got to freaking face up against, though. Taking a look at the season. It was a really good start to the season. It seemed like win after win after win. Yeah, there it is. And then a couple losses near the end. But overall, actually, before we go, and I want to see. So the Chiefs, they lost to once. And Great. Lost twice to the Chiefs. I'm sure they're not going to lose a third. Looking at Rodgers' numbers, though, just over 5,000 yards, 41 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. I mean, this team is scoring touchdowns. Like, a lot of them. Like, a ton of them. Defensively, Max Crosby, about half of what he had the year before. Jalen Carter's a freaking sim, though. Let me tell you, he is insane. But yeah, I mean, the numbers look pretty good. I don't know if they would have won any awards, but let's just quickly go into it. I don't know if there would have been any. A lot of orange teams. Seemed like they were pretty much all Browns as well. But let's see. Raiders versus Chiefs. This could be clutch. And they do win. So you play 3 times, you lose the first 2 in the regular season, but the one that matters, you win. Then you beat the Titans if they get to the Super Bowl going in. Please. No! This could have been the perfect experiment. And instead, they decided to lose the final game of the, well, pre-Super Bowl, if you will. Rodgers throwing 2 interceptions. Oh, Lord. Not a championship loss, bro. You can't retire on that. Bro, that's going to follow him even crazier than normal. Like, that's him, like, gone. Like, people may even forget how good he was. Like, that is another championship loss. Wow. Okay. Eagles versus the Bills, and the winner of that one is the Bills by quite a bit. And I imagine that is going to be Rodgers. And if he is, wow, that is impossible to follow up. Oh, man, I would definitely do another season if I was him. He's still here. Another year is coming in. 42 years old. So the first Packers rebuild I did, Rodgers retired literally year 1. And now he's staying forever. He's like, screw it, I'm never leaving. All right, the team. Somehow they have Evan Neal now. Colt Miller is a decent overall. The skill positions, like the wide receivers, are still the exact same, which is kind of surprising. Clyde Sheffield, they drafted him recently enough. He's a star dev, I guess. And then defense, let's take a look what we got on defense. Middle linebacker not looking great, but Drew Tranquill, X-Factor apparently. Edge is solid. Merrick is a superstar. They added a bunch of corners. Murphy Bunting is apparently an X-Factor. What overall is he? He's not overall. Age, 29. They added Tariq Woolen. They have C.J. Henderson. How many corners does this team? They have 5 starting caliber corners pretty much on the same team. Money, obviously, we knew was an X factor. Once again, really weird how slow he is, but that's pretty much that. And let's see. This has got to be the final. Oh, Super Bowl. It's got to be the final year. And the team is in the playoffs with a bye week because they have the number 1 seed. Maybe it was smart to go for another year as here they are. Obviously, they lost 2 games right out the gate and then just a bunch of wins. The Chiefs, they always lose to, dude. Always. Rodgers, ever since joining this team, has been in the top 3 for yards every year. Touchdowns are a little lower than normal. Picks are only 12, though. 30 rushing touchdowns for Jacobs. Over 2,000 yards. Haven't changed the scheme at all. This team could be like their playbook and scheme could be the next one I maybe try and rebuilds when we're struggling. I love... Oh, no, Jacobs was at number 3. I was about to say, I love how he's not even on the list with 30 touchdowns, but he was. Should have probably won MVP. 30 touchdowns, 2,000 yards. That's absurd. But another chance for the Raiders against the Steelers. And they lose. How are you losing to the Steelers? 21-7, dude. Of course, this isn't a rebuild, so the team isn't like some god tier team like it usually is by this point in a sim situation, but still, that is a huge L. But of course, we lose to the team going to the Super Bowl. So it's like, you're losing to the team that was going to get there no matter what. Rodgers just fell apart completely, and I mean, at this point, it would just be embarrassing to come back. Before, I could see it, you losing the championship game, but now it's like, okay, you don't have it anymore, buddy. It's time to go. The Giants versus the Steelers, that could be kind of a classic matchup, and not really. Wait, did Derek Carr retire before Rodgers? What? Bro, X Factor is busted if he's still here. He's 79 overall. He's still here. He's 43. I mean, as far as longevity goes, I mean, this team was probably thinking, we might end up not getting that many years out of Rodgers. If lucky, you'd get 1 year. But, I mean, they got their years. It worked out for them, let me tell you. I know I keep saying, surely this is the last year, but but like surely this is the last year, right? And a 6-11 team, that's it. We'll take a look at the stats, but that's it. He's done. He's juiced. He's out of here. Well, I mean, personally, he's maybe not out of here, but somehow the team is. I don't know what was the issue. 9th in offensive yardage. Was it just the defense again? Was it just the defense? 32nd in. Wow. Okay. Well, we know why they didn't make it. So with a lot of Rodgers' career, the team around him kind of not living up to what they could have done. Although I will say in this specific sim, Rodgers kind of let the team down. In each of the losses, pretty much, it seemed like, other than that Chiefs one, he had opportunities and just did not deliver. With the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl and the Rodgers retiring, right? That probably puts it to an end, right? It puts there's conclusions and such. And there he goes. Wow, what are the odds, dude? Devontae, Waller, and Rodgers go at the same time. They must have had like a group call and said, okay, I think it's time. And there it is. 23 years in the league. Absurdity. But only finishes with 1 ring and only 1 trip to the Super Bowl, which kind of seems like that's the way it's going to happen in real life, which is a damn shame. But not easy to win them. Not easy to even get there. So, regardless, Raiders, it's hard to say, but I'd say the way it went, kind of still a good decision, right? Like, it was a good trade, I think. So, overall, gotta love what happened, and that's pretty much the sim. If you guys enjoyed this one, let me know by leaving a like, maybe subscribing if you're new. If you're not new, appreciate your continued support on the channel. If you have any other experiments you'd like to see, I don't really want to do too many like, oh, well, Rodgers the Jets, oh, Rodgers this. But if there's other, scenarios you'd like to see, maybe let me know in the comment section below. Maybe we'll do it. Any, kind of challenge, rebuild idea, anything at all, let me know in the comment section below. Maybe we do it. Of course, as far as the, next video goes, we'll have a Seahawks video. A little bit earlier today was a Vikings one, so check that out, and that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys come back for next video, but until next video, see ya!